Welcome to the Speak Her Podcast with your host, Camille Essick, the podcast where innovators and creators connect. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Camille Essick. I'm host of the Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and critics connect. What I need you to do right now is hit that notification bell and subscribe. Follow us. We're streaming across all major platforms such as iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Pandora. I'm also on social media platforms at Camille.Essick, and I would love to hear from you. Feel free to shoot me an email at the speakerpodcast at gmail.com. Without further ado, we're going to have a great show tonight. He's been here before. He was here with Adelia, but I had to bring him back so he could have his own space. Jhalen Daniels, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming back.
Hey, thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So since well, first of all, how are you doing? What's going on?
Doing pretty good. Trying to, keep my sanity, but at the same time, keep it moving, keep my bones going.
Come on, Bones. And those that are not familiar with who you are and what you do, let the people know. I call you Tyler Perry, but the people don't know. So we're about to let them know.
Well, as you can see, I'm Jhalen Daniels, the founder of Genius Studios, um, producer, director, actor. That's my main thing. That's what I really want to do. But you're not gonna take care of the business first. So, producer, director. Done a few feature films, some horror stuff, interviews. I did some, the interview that we did with Adelia, um, and a former Disney star. So yeah, that's kind of my lane, film and television.
Let us know about these projects. Like, wait a minute. Like, I knew you were writing.
Uh-huh.
So let's talk about these genres. Like, excuse me. What have you done in the realm of like horror and acting? Like your credits. We want to see your work. Where can we go catch that?
So I executive produced a film, which means just put a little money in. But I did this film. It's called The Audition. It's a adaptation of another film, or I guess what they reboot, whatever. So somebody else did this film, and I put some money in on it, and did a little producing on that. And that particular film is going through shopping. For those who don't know what that is, that's when you send it out to different networks and streamers, and you see who wants it, who picks it up. And then the one with Adelia, that one is gonna be a little. It's gonna be a little minute before we see that one because we had run into some issues. We finished the whole project, everything. So it's some stuff that that kind of put us behind, but once it's out, the best thing I can say is keep stay on my social media because I'll update everybody, letting everybody know when that comes out and those
Yes.
kind of
I
yeah.
love it. When it drops, I want the exclusive interview. Like I want to know about that.
I
So
know I was thinking about almost possibly doing a premiere. I don't know, where everybody can come and watch it together. So
yeah,
I
like a
don't know.
watch party. That would be dope.
Yeah,
That's what's up. And I love that you're doing it. We're kind of chatting before the show started as far as the importance of us as Black people creating our own platforms and spaces and bringing our people along with us, especially now with it seems like every major institution is just ripping DEI like it's just the plague, out of the walls of society as far as all things inclusive and cultural.
right,
And what are your takes on that? Because I am a big champion of build your space, take your people with you, which is why you're here because I'm
right.
working to build this podcast into something bigger, and I want to do that and bring my folks with me.
I think is very instrumental. Everybody else has platforms. Why don't we?
Mhm.
So I'm huge advocate of that. Like you call me Tyler Perry, like, but yeah, I mean a lot of the blueprint that he's laid out. That's pretty much what I've studied and what I still do study. So that
Mhm.
having that our own platforms, having our own spaces, not just so that way we can just be just for each other, but it doesn't make any sense for us to perform and or be in everybody else's space but not have nowhere to call home of our own.
Mhm.
So I'm very, yeah, I think it's very instrumental that that we have our own things. Did I answer that question?
You did. I
Okay.
love that because I was talking to someone earlier this afternoon, and they were just sharing some things with me. And one of the biggest things, a theme in the conversation was fear. And we always can have things in our mind like, oh my gosh, I want to do this, or I have a dream or aspiration. But that fear can arrest us to where we procrastinate, we put it off, or we give reasons why it's not the perfect time. And so in
Mhm.
that conversation, I prefaced, I was like, there's never going to be a right time. There's never going to be a right situation. Life is going to life. You just have to say, okay, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to jump off the porch. I'm going to do this now. So for you, you know, being in Atlanta, being young, young, gifted, and black, right? And where did you decide or figure out, like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to just jump in and just go for it.
It started way before Atlanta. So I was born in Atlanta and raised in Florida. Then I moved back here some years back. But I don't know. I think I always, was a very inquisitive child. I love to, take apart things, and I was very creative. So I can't even say. I mean, you know what? I can't say this. When I graduated from high school, I had already started doing things. Like when I was in high school, I had already started. I started my company. At the time, it wasn't Genius Studios; it was Extreme Destiny Studios.
Mhm.
And I had started the company, and my teacher that I had in high school, she had got me to do this project for the state, and I got to do that. And I was like, that was the first thing I did. That was like a professional project where I was like, okay, I knew then it was like, okay, it's time. This is something I'm dead. This is definitely, this ain't just a fad or some kind of trend. This is the real deal. So once high school hit, oh, I booked and left Florida so fast, and I came
Yeah.
straight to Atlanta because it was time. I was like, okay, I need to put myself in the ring. So yes, when I was 17 when I graduated, but yeah, 17 years old, I was like, yeah, I'm out of here, and I left. I mean, literally graduated in June, and I moved here in August. So yeah, that's when it hit. Like, okay, it's time to you have to just go.
That's so good. As far as, like, doing that and just saying, just going and just leaving,
Mhm.
like, knowing what you don't know and understanding that and being okay with that.
Yeah.
Even in the space right now, there's so much I don't know, but I'm so committed and so determined to making this thing
Mhm.
happen, seeing it through.
Yeah.
I'm learning as I go, but at the same time, it's like,
Oh yeah.
man, I wish I had known that because you don't have, like, for me, I did not have a blueprint because what I'm doing, it's a little different. Of course, there are other people out here podcasting and tapping into, digital media, but it's the way and the messaging that can
Mhm.
make a person stick out. And so not having someone to always hold your hand in every nuance of what you're doing, how have you managed those spaces of, yes, you're studying Mr. Perry, but then there are other areas that are niche or nuanced to what you do. So how do you manage, knowing the things you don't know while
I
you're doing
mean,
and creating?
that's a really good question, and I'm a huge advocate of learning outside of teaching yourself.
Mhm.
One of the biggest reasons why I did move to Atlanta, like immediately after high school, was because I got tired of teaching myself. Even though I had, I started. I think when I did that project that I just mentioned earlier, I probably was in the 10th grade then.
Oh, wow.
So with doing that, I was already getting into the grind of doing stuff, and I started doing events in my local city and everything all through it. So I was doing all these different things, but I got tired of teaching myself because it's like
Mhm.
you only can do as far as you know. So, and then especially being in a place, I lived in a small town called Palm Coast, Florida. Beautiful city, but ain't nothing out there to do. It's a retirement place. Even on the Urban Dictionary, they have on there, it's where old people come to die. Like there is literally nothing out there as far as in that creative realm. So there was nothing for me to look at, and so everything that I saw, it was through TV or not. So I was like, no, I want to get on the set and experience different things. So I moved here and I didn't care, even though I had just I did a feature film there and everything in Palm Coast. Even though I didn't come to Atlanta like I gotta be a producer. No, I came as a PA. And I had, my granddad, worked in television, all that stuff. So, he was like, if you ever need help, I have some people. I say, nah, thanks for that, but I really need to learn. So I took myself all the way to the bottom so I could absorb everything. And even sometimes, I mean, to recent this year, sometimes I would literally, if I don't have anything going on, I would go sit on set as an extra to just watch. Because a lot of times when you work in your position, you only can see what's going on in your position and your department. But I literally was sitting there extra, so I can just sit there and watch how everybody does everything. And it's very big that you learn, and like you said, knowing what you don't know. And that is, I knew that what I was doing, even as much as it was how good as it was, I knew that that wasn't where I wanted to be at. So I knew there was learning I had to do. So I was like, this is good. And everybody's applauding me, but I'm like, no, this is not exactly where I want to be at yet. So I still have a lot of work to do. So it's about, I had to make sure I put myself in a position to be a student, always a student.
That's really good. And when you were touching on mentorship, you also
Mhm.
said something about not knowing everything, and then it's like collaboration is another branch of that tree, right? So in
Absolutely. Yeah.
addition to having mentorship, like the power of collaboration, um, because sometimes even like we hear at church that the answer that you need could be next to you or 2 people down, but we
Mhm.
don't reach out and speak to people because we can be in our own bubble or so caught up on what we have going on and so focused on what we don't have when your answer, your solution can literally be sitting right next to
Right.
you. And one of the things I'm learning as well is the power of collaboration. I think a lot of times we can be so focused on networking vertically, but not looking
Mhm.
horizontally,
Right. Yeah.
just because I feel like we are next, but we're now, and a lot of the individuals that people, I guess, kinda clout chase to reach up to on the ladder, the
Mhm.
next chapter or generation of leadership is to our left and our right, and actually, that's the most powerful place for us to network. Not to say vertically is not good, but when you're starting on ground level, like you and I, it makes victory that much sweeter when we network and come together from a horizontal standpoint.
Mhm. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I completely wholeheartedly agree. Collaboration. I definitely this year has probably been the most I have collaborated, and I will say it was both. It was horizontally and vertically. Some of the stuff I did, but I knew there was certain things. There's a lot of leverage and collaboration. Of course, we know about the creativity part, but there's a lot of leverage that you can use and all that stuff when you collaborate with certain people. There's certain people who do not have this, but you have this, and it's like okay, and that's like I'm gonna use this for an example. I don't really talk about this as much, but there's a studio here in Atlanta. It's a 53-acre campus, 180 million dollar facility, beautiful studio, and I did an event with them. My friend was doing an event and he was like, I'm looking for a building. I said, give me a sec. I'm gonna call some people I know. And I called the studio up and we were able to, convince them like they let us do it there for free. And you know, we got to do the event there for free in exchange of bringing, different people in the industry there. And through that, as time went on, I created a relationship with them, to where I kind of, I can't say too much now, but I cracked, a certain kind of deal with them that has never been done before because of collaboration and also the times of the industry that we have. The film industry is in a weird position right now, so because of
Mhm.
being able to collaborate, I was like, okay, their particular facility is underperforming. I'm a filmmaker producer, who has some content and all that stuff, so I was able to do something because of that, but it was really because of collaboration, and the whole entire deal was structuring through collaboration. So it's like, you got to Jesus collaborated, so why can't we? You know.
Yeah, that's really good. I also think too, when you mentioned the film industry and it's
Mhm.
taking a major impact since the pandemic with streaming services, just because um it opened the door. Because for so long, larger studios gatekeeping
Right.
film and television in a lot of areas, and so a lot of writers, producers, etcetera, had to be more creative as far as how to get the work out. Then you had the
Mhm.
writer strike, but it has opened the door for spaces like this to where we're finding alternatives to creating the work and getting it out there and being more independent. That way we have more control over our work. And so I'm interested in your thoughts as far as the trajectory, as far as where do we see streaming content or even smaller scale like with YouTube and even podcasts like myself that look to go bigger because we're in this very interesting chapter in media history.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all on a there's all different
Are
levels
you
and
frozen?
space. Huh? Can you hear
Yeah.
me? Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me?
I think it was a little pixelated. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Got it. Yes.
Okay, cool, cool. All right now. Not too much, devil. But
Right, not too much on the internet.
yeah, but no, I think there's different spaces and there's different levels to everything. And I believe every single space has to have its place. There has to be studios. If it was just a creator industry, then the thing, the sad part about creators and all that stuff. Even you think about some of your biggest creators, their staff is no more than 10 people. You think about a movie set, there could be up to 1,000 people working on one film. So there has to be different levels in the industry. You have to have, because everybody don't want to. Sometimes you don't feel like watching the whole movie. So you can be able to watch a podcast. Watch some skits and all that stuff on social media. So there definitely is a space for it all. And I think the biggest thing that we have to do is recognize that in our industry. Everybody's trying to in the inside side of it, everybody's trying to collide everything. Where it's like, no, keep everything where it belongs, and there's a space for it. But everybody, you have you have these huge billion-dollar companies trying to do the duplicate strategies of a podcast, and it's like you can't do that. You have a whole different kind of system that you're running, and it's like everybody's trying to mesh it all together. But I feel like no, we need to have everybody needs to have their own space. And now that these doors have opened, like you said, those doors have opened for everybody. Okay, great. We have, this way in for the people who aren't coming through the studios or are not going to get certain opportunities up front. They have their space, and then the studios have their space where they occupy. So I feel like as long as we can get that in our heads and remember that everybody has a space and they're gonna occupy it the way they should occupy it, then we'll be straight. But I have a love and hate with streaming. Like you said, it brought a lot of opportunities, and it definitely helped break a lot of barriers for Black creators. Because there's a point in time, where Black films wouldn't go across seas and all that stuff, and they wouldn't do foreign markets because they said, oh, it doesn't sell. But streaming proved that wrong. So you have that, but at the same time, there's some things, with how the business of it works. There was a point in time. Uh, if you were a writer on television and you wrote one episode, those particular writers would get every 3 months they're looking at $20,000 check, versus now you're seeing 20 cents in 3 months, and that's because of streaming. So like I said, it has its pros and cons just like everything does. But I think it's hitting a certain place where it's being reconfigured to some of the traditional ways. But yeah, that's my take on that.
No, that's really good. So, and when I look at crossovers, like when you look at Issa Rae, when she
Mhm.
started out with was it Awkward Black Girl series on
Yeah.
YouTube, and then it exploded into Insecure, and then here she is now. And there's another creator, I think her name is Imani, someone. One night I was scrolling on TikTok on the weekend, and she was like, "Hey, you all, I just launched my first independent series on YouTube. The pilot is on YouTube. Go check it out. It's called Three Blind Mice." And so I
Mhm.
immediately went over to YouTube and watched it, and it is so good. And it reminds me of the beginnings of Issa Rae, and I was like, "This
Yeah.
girl is going somewhere."
Yeah.
Um, and it's just the preface that it's about this um Black girl. I guess she's biracial and she's in DC, Baltimore area. She's
Mhm.
in Baltimore and she wants to have a Black experience, but she's been raised by white people her entire life. And so she
Mhm.
goes to HBCU and she kind of goes through this culture shock. And you see her in the first, and this is maybe 30 minutes on YouTube, how she's
Mhm.
really maneuvering, just not knowing the nuances, the basics, what we would consider just Black culture 101.
Right.
And so the series, the pilot ends with her, somebody's like, "Well, how do you know so and so?" And she's like, "Oh, that's my dad." So there's kind of hinting that these 3 ladies that end up being roommates are actually related, but it's a very interesting series, and I'll tell
Mm.
anybody that asks, like, go check it out. It's and even
Yeah.
how they and her and her mom filmed it. And so I say that to say that even in she didn't go to a network. She did it on YouTube, and I think just her template, it reminds me very much of Issa Rae,
Yeah.
but I think it will definitely open doors for her on a larger market. So
I mean, yeah,
yeah,
you have to. The thing is, somebody reached out to me before about how do I get in contact with studios, and I'm like, we live in a time now, you don't have to. Um, and because honestly, for me, when it comes down, like, there's different kind of forms. So you have production studios, you also have like the people who actually, like, make films. You got some places where they just shoot films at. You got people who are like, no, has an actual team. But I was, they're trying to reach out into pitches, but I'm like, there's so many different ways, and at this point in time, it's about doing with what you have. I love the story with Elijah and the woman who had the little bit of ingredients
the
and all
Sugar
that
White
stuff, and
Woman,
I
yes,
love that because it's about
yeah,
doing what you have. A lot of times people are trying to get certain things, and it's like I want you to get it too, but that's just not the reality of our world. Everybody's situation is different. You have some people that, like think about Quentin Brunson. Quentin Brunson did not have this crazy resume before Abbott Elementary. You have people where they have, they go from this to that. And, then you have people who take some time. You have people who got to go through some stage plays and then they get, going through that way. So there's so many different ways. You have people who go through, podcasting. Then you have a Mr. Beast, who starts with his thing and now he has the deals. So it's like do with what you have and whatever you have the resources for, that's how which you need to be moving with. And you use your resource to get with whatever you have. So if you got a camera and you got YouTube, cool, you go there and do that. And I think that's one of the biggest things that has to happen. But everybody wants, it to happen the same way. And it's like it takes time. It takes
yeah,
time. I mean, I
for
still,
sure.
got so much more learning and expanding to do.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things I'm learning, as far as sorry, I think my sinuses are draining with the seasons changing. With the podcast space is the fact that I literally started at the bottom, like building my channel with 0 subscribers, no sponsorship, nothing. And it's like in my mind, at first I was like, well, why? Like, because I didn't even want to do this. This is not my thing. God was like, no, this is what you're gonna do. Seriously. But Jalen, as I have gone through this process, it's like it's showing me when I get to the next level, because I've worked every corner of this podcast. If someone makes a mistake, I'll be able to catch it because I've
Mhm.
done everything that it takes to put an episode out to publish, whether it's design, booking confirmation, scheduling, copy, IA, which we're gonna get into in a moment. Every nuance of building a podcast from scratch. Because I worked every corner, I know it, like I know my podcast like the back of my hand. So if someone were to
Right,
come in and make a mistake, I can immediately tell them and catch where the error was made because I've done it. Like
right,
film distribution, writing. I've been taking some of my most popular episodes in the paper, flipping my some of my episodes into music. So now my podcast has a soundtrack, then taking that audio from the soundtrack and it's streaming
mhm,
across various platforms because why? There's so much there's so many nuggets and gems there. We have
right,
to learn how to take how can I say it? Chop it down, break it down, how to recycle, upcycle your content. Like you can have one episode and learning how to chop it up to not just a stream, but then take it and make a reel. And it's
right,
like, how else can I monopolize? Oh, let me take the topic from this conversation and go make a song, like
mhm,
off of one episode. And so I think now as digital creators, with the assistance of AI, we are learning how to maximize what was considered as just bargain basement content, but now I'm learning how to monopolize it to literally create a name for ourselves in the digital streets. And so with that being said, Jan, we're just seeing the rise of AI. It's taking it over by storm. I feel like, hey, don't fight it. It's here. It's not going away. You
right,
might as well learn it because is so new, it's so undersaturated. Before it becomes saturated or super saturated, this is the perfect time to jump in and learn it. Even if it's something basic, like those little building blocks will help you in the long run. And it's
Mhm.
not to, I feel like it doesn't deduce the creativity, but it just gives you another tool in your bag that you can use to maximize your skill set.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, knowing what to use for your, for your lane. Like you said, it's here. You have to embrace it. Like I say, everything has its pros and cons. And but the thing about with AI is it's been around for a very long time. It's just now it's on the consumer level. That's the thing
Mhm.
that kind of shifted. Now that we have access to things that these other industries have had access for decades. Um, so it's like there's certain spaces where I use AI and all that stuff. Like, hey, I don't care. I'm gonna say it. I love me some Chat GPT.
Man, what?
That's
It is the best
what.
executive assistant EA
Because who
ever.
finna type this email? Not me.
Who?
Not me. Not I.
Dear sir or
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah, exactly. So
Mhm.
everything has its place. I love Chat GPT. I talk to Chat GPT like it's a real person. Like
Good
people probably
morning,
think
how
I'm
you
on the phone.
doing? Yeah, good morning, queen. I
Yeah, my Chat GPT is a little ratchet now because I done taught it how to talk. I'm like,
Oh my god.
yeah, all that sedity stuff, we don't do that. My Chat GPT was like, look here, bro. You know what I'm saying? So it gives it to me real.
As long as I'm like, "What's up, twin?"
Exactly. So it's just so many different things like that. It comes in handy for certain things. I don't use it to write no script. Let me clear the air now. But it does help with certain things when I'm trying to figure out how to say the words, and all that stuff, and
Mhm.
just even my daily things, and also keeping up with industry things. Because in my industry, I try to stay. Our industry is no matter what level you work on, you're taught to work, to really watch the trades, which is the headlines and all that stuff, and we follow that
Mhm.
stuff. So I try to use it to stay up in the loop with that because it's sometimes I've been reading this. I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I say, ChatGPT, can you break this down,
Summarize.
simple form? I'm not gonna
Yes.
read all that. So
Yeah.
it has its place, and especially I don't really use it, but the Opus clip and all that stuff, what it does is amazing.
Mhm.
Chopping up videos and things like that, especially for podcasts, creators having that's game changing, to be able to do those kind of things. And it's changed, it helps in so many different ways. And that's why it's like I think that's why it's like the areas where it can be a tool and it can help enhance something, let's keep it. But when it starts to get into place where it's in the way and it's trying to do things that's supposed to be creative, that's where you get this cookie cutter kind of things. But it's a good thing, but there's what the kind of times we live in. I don't want to hear no excuses, because we, like you said, we have AI, and no matter what form of medium you work in, there's something that it can help you with, and if especially as a business owner, it's so many different tools and different things that it can help with. So utilize them while you have them.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. It's for me, it's great for strategy. It helps with creating correspondence, like you said, long emails, lots of information. I can get it out very quickly. It's great for templates. When you're needing, especially with correspondence. For myself, I created my template before ChatGPT hit the scene, which has been standard, but if I were to go back and revise it, I could always drop it in there and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, can you condense this and shorten this down for my podcast guests?" So far, I haven't had to do that. In the future, possibly, but definitely is also great as far as just day planning, things like that, and just getting some things done. So it's definitely saved me a lot of time versus days prior to, and I truly appreciate that. Um, but I will say on the other end, as a creator, there's some things, even with technology, you still have to do, because the human touch, there's just
Yeah.
an essence that comes from us as people that no matter how good, how fast, how sharp, AI cannot replicate. Um,
Hmm.
our DNA, what makes us human. And um, I think that's something we need to remember as far as
Yeah.
discernment and just human that innate. Um,
It's certain things that just can't be touched. Certain stuff
yeah,
can't be
intuition.
duplicated.
That's the word I'm looking for. Intuition. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's just certain things, that just don't need to be touched. But and I want to say this because I know everybody else uses ChatGPT. Please take them M dashes before you post it. Take them out because I'll be reading people. I'm like, they be trying to sound so efficient. You got all these M dashes in there. We know that's from ChatGPT. You did not write this. Stop it. Just
Oh
stop.
my god, I haven't seen that, but wow.
Yeah, it's like the little whole small little dashes. Now that I said you gonna recognize it, but it's everyone people are using it. A lot of times people forget to take the M dashes out because it's I don't know what it is, but it has this thing of dropping M dashes in. Like if you have to write a caption or a letter or whatever, it puts these M dashes in for some reason. But yeah, take them
That's
out.
interesting. I haven't seen that, but I'll definitely be looking for that the next time I look at someone's post.
Yeah, I mean, like, because even now, doing like certain business stuff, I have like, the manager of the studio, he'll be emailing me with all these M dashes, and I'm like,
You didn't proofread. He probably just busy, like, yeah, let me go and just drop this.
yeah,
Or, and you're like, this is not you, man.
yeah. So it has its places, but I think the biggest thing, embrace it, do with what you can, and then but don't use it to not do work. Use it for things that can help you in your work, and you'll be straight.
Inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
sometimes when I'm trying to flesh out certain ideas, I will talk to it and it'll drop like especially like I think now I probably have around 300 plus concepts between feature films and series. And I go on ChatGPT and I just like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. And I start, fleshing it all out. And then while it's typing it up, I'll be reading, I'm like, oh yeah, let's add this in. And then before you know it, I came up with a whole story. So you gotta
yeah.
know what to use it for.
Yeah. I've done that more like I think it was yesterday. It was something I had going on in my mind. And it's, since I'm here by myself, you don't have that person to talk back to you like their feedback. And so I
Right.
just turned on my chat and was, doing the dictation and just letting myself kind of talk out loud. And it
Mhm.
really captured where I was trying to go with it and took what was in my mind and conceptualized it for me. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what I was trying to say. So
Yeah.
absolutely. Really good.
Yeah. I know, and I
So
kind of want to go back when you was talking about knowing your stuff and all that, and different things like that. And I know I remember you talking. It just hit me when we
no,
were
you're
talking about like
good.
mentorship and things like that.
Mhm.
And knowing those different things. I've because even though I get to kind of watch stuff that Tyler Perry's doing, there's so many different the things that God gave me on a whole different level, and not
Mhm.
regarding like size or anything, but regarding just like it's a whole different space. So it's so much I get to see from him, but just at the same time, there's so many things that is completely never been done before, and going back to ChatGPT having trying to flush those things out because when I tell you there's so many different things that go through my head. I remember there was one that my head was literally hurting and I was just trying to figure out like what is going on. And I had so many different ideas going through my head. And so I'm talking to ChatGPT. I'm like, what do I need to do? And it was like, write it all out. So I had literally started 3 scripts in one night. I got like 20 pages on one, 10 on another, 6 on another, and just flushed it out. And being, because it was just like I've never had that experience before. It was like a whole bunch. I guess it was just a creative overload. But knowing what you know and all that stuff, and I knew that like there's so many different spaces because I don't have anybody I can call. Like, even though I watch Tyler Perry, what he does, I can't call him. I don't work, but the man did not give me his number. So, I can't just, call. So, being able to have ChatGPT has been a huge help because most times, I'm pretty sure you can relate to this as well. Most times with like, our friends, we may say certain things, but they can't really get into the conversation with us about it. And, next thing you know is, they're talking about something completely different. I'm like, okay, well, I'll call you back because I got to get this stuff in my head. I need somebody to bounce off with. So, God sent ChatGPT for a reason. That's all I got
Evangelist chat, we thank you.
to say. Yeah.
It really is good, and I know there are people out there abusing it, and with anything else, there's always the flip side to it, and people are like, "Oh, taking jobs away in, the industry," but on the other hand, it's also creating jobs because there's so many people that don't know how to use AI, that are not familiar with the capabilities of it, and so, yes, jobs are being lost, but also it's creating another industry,
Mhm.
and I feel like because all you need is a laptop, you're not restricted by certain demographics like age
Right.
or your socioeconomic status. There are people that been in corporate America 20 years, and now with chat, they're dropping ebooks left and right, and they've left their 9 to 5 or 9 to thrive. So
Yeah.
I feel like, it's what you make of it, and I'm here for the good of it, in
Yeah.
addition to just being a creative, not just being a creative, but also a podcaster and taking what I'm learning, the things in my mind, the things I get have downloaded into my spirit, and it's like, "Okay, how can we make this work?" And so I absolutely believe that for us, as Black people, statistically, we've always been behind, um, the curve when it comes to technology and information,
Yeah.
and I think with podcasting, YouTube, and AI, in a way, it's kind of, beginning to open that door and crack it open a little more, and if we
Mhm.
hop in there, we can all come out good and collaborate
Mhm.
in spaces like this and, build these tables in these rooms, bring our people with us, create resources, like I've created digital, products, e-courses, etcetera, on my website, camilleessick.com, because I feel that if I'm learning and I'm grasping it, put it out there, that way others can also come along, ride this train, and we can do this together.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and when we first got here, we was talking about bringing your people on and the ownership and all that stuff. And while you was talking about that, is you said being behind the curve and thing. Another thing that that goes along with that is when we bring our people to these rooms, make sure that we bring in the people who investing. And not
Yes.
there's not just investing in you, but like they're investing in their own craft. Because one of the
Yes.
biggest things that I don't care what social media says, I'm not a fan of just putting people on just because you know them and we didn't
Right.
have certain resources before. We understand that, but there is nothing worse than put that, like our pastor says, like putting the keys of a Ferrari in a toddler's hand. You have
Yes.
certain people that we're bringing along, and they're not even I've Lord have mercy. And especially in certain things, I have definitely learned. Now,
Mhm.
I know some people gonna call me, they're gonna say I'm being fake, but I've learned so many times, you gotta be careful who you bring along and who you
Yes,
put into certain
absolutely.
certain rooms because some people, yeah, they're riding off your coattail, and when you put them in the room, they're gonna embarrass you. So,
Yeah,
you
and
have
I don't
to
mean just
be
bring
mindful.
anybody along, but, like, other creators,
Yeah, I
people
get what
that
you're
you
saying. Yeah.
collaborate with. That's what I mean by that, like, don't bring cousin and junior, like, not that, but when I say bring your
Yeah.
people along with you, the other people in your industry that have proven themselves, and they need that sense of that opportunity, and they have sweat equity, so for clarity,
Mhm.
that's what I'm meaning by that as far as bringing your people with you.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. I was like, I want to make sure that the folks who watching
The
that
people
they
in the
don't
back, we're
just
saying it for the people in
yeah,
the
I don't
back.
want them thinking they need to bring Day Day in them.
No, no,
And
no, they can say
because
what
Day
they
Day got
got.
him a TikTok and he be doing cooking videos and now here no.
Like, you
No, no,
40
no.
years old, still trying to get your rap career off the
Yeah,
ground.
no. Why does
Absolutely not.
I just saw something. Why does it said all black people for some reason we know somebody in our family who try to rap.
Why?
That's a science to be
Is
researched.
that a rule?
I don't I don't know, but
Black 101.
gee, I can't even count how many people in my family want to rap. And I'm talking about 40 something, 50 years old.
That's
Okay.
crazy.
Yeah.
And speaking on that, I feel like we'll start, and we're gonna circle back to technology. Why
Mhm.
is it with our community, we're so big on pushing either you're a dance, sing, rap, or you're an
Sport.
athlete, but
Yeah.
sports, but we don't push STEM,
Yeah.
law, medicine, like those areas. And when you look at more Afro-Caribbean communities, sub-Saharan communities, it's almost the opposite. Like, no, we're gonna be a doctor or a lawyer, make our family proud, and anything
Mhm.
outside of that is, like, not acceptable. And so, I just
Mm.
wonder for us, because I know if I were to ever get married and have a child, I'm definitely pushing STEM, law, science,
Yeah.
you know, because I feel like long term, we need more attorneys. Less than 2% of all attorneys are Black, right? So we
Yeah.
need not just Black attorneys on this side of the bar. We need Black attorneys on the bench as judges. We need
Mhm.
sheriffs, we need lawyers, we need doctors, we need scientists, we need us in technology.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but one of the issues I'm running into that's been frustrating when it comes to creating images with Black women is the hypersexualization of Black women when you go into certain AI software and resources. And I don't care what you make, it's always more cleavage than necessary. Some of the poses.
Mm.
And so I have found myself um trying to be very creative in the prompting when I am needing certain images because I can say Black woman on the phone, whatever, and it'll give me super lazy, like just so super, just over sexualized.
Yeah.
And I've seen that with our brothers too. And so I've been working as far as mastering prompting to have more um peaceful, classy, professional generations. Not to say those things are not out there, but just in the average
Yeah. That's always the face of it.
generation,
Always the
super
front. Yeah.
sexual, more than necessary. It's like and I've asked other creators, like, no, this comes with it.
Yeah. It, and I want to go back to what you were saying about because you tapped on something about our culture, how with certain careers that we don't motivate our kids to go into, and a lot of that stems on exposure.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, for the longest, that was one of the only spaces where Black people could be in, for especially you think about coming out of slavery, and even during slavery, I mean, it was, they would make, slaves perform and all this stuff. So, you think about all these different things that deal with, performing, those are some of the only spaces where, we were in. So you have this limited exposure on that. So now you look at, why we don't see this, because you got a lot of Black people don't even know that that career is even feasible. They see
Yeah.
it, but it's like, that's not an entryway for Black. They don't see that there's an entryway for Black people. It is, go to
Mhm.
school and become a doctor. But, they don't, so nobody's exposed to these things. And it's from time to time, you got these generations just doing the same thing. Because like my dad, he was an athlete and all that stuff. But one thing that I really commend my parents on is even though I was athletic, I had the build for it and all that stuff, and I knew how to play sports, they didn't push it. They saw the lane out, they saw like what I was creative in, and they made sure they pushed me into that. And and they do that with all of us. But I think it's definitely a generational thing of just a limited exposure. There's so many careers that people don't even know exist, and especially thinking that to think that we could have those positions because we don't, like you said, we don't see ourselves in certain positions. So a big part of our culture is doing what we see, and certain things we just have not seen, and we don't think to put our our kids there. So that's definitely something that I feel like strongly has to shift, because I mean, even in the space where we are like in our industry and all that stuff, at the end of the day, I don't care how many Black directors we see, how many Black actors, there's this many who actually have power and who can actually make change, because the people who behind the board and sitting at the conference room tables and all that stuff, that's the ones that really matter, and there's not that many people there. You
And we
just,
need us in spaces. They
yeah,
con they control the storyboard.
absolutely. I mean, and they control the biggest piece of being able to put more Black creators on. Everybody's talking about Ryan Coogler and what he's done, which is phenomenal. However, Ryan Coogler, I hate to say it like this, but he's still playing in a system that could drop him, pick him up whenever. And we look at the what's going on with Black Panther when he did that film. That was Black Panther made $1.6 billion, and what Ryan Coogler got out of that was not even 1% of that. So when you think about that and you look at all of that as a whole, that's not just because, oh, it's racist. No, it's because there's a lack of us in there to be able to make decisions to put us in position that everybody's chasing a certain system. It's like, no, we got to be in position to be politicians, to be lawyers, to be, running the studio, to have all these different lanes. So that way we can be able to bring our people up who need to be brought up.
Yeah, that's so good. Didn't he? Because I was reading that he also negotiated his deal a little differently when he released Sinners as far as
Mhm.
ownership and the masters with the studios over time. So those royalties and the masters would be his versus the way it's negotiated with Marvel for Black Panther. So I'm very interested to hear a follow up on what happens with that. But I do remember some people kind of felt the way because they were like, no one has ever negotiated a studio deal like this before with a major studio ever, and he was the first one to do it. And so other studios were coming back thinking like, oh my gosh, I hope he's not starting a trend and trying to figure out how to create a loophole so no one else can do what he has done.
A little clarity on that. He even addressed it on one of the major news. That's with the deal he did wasn't the first time it's ever been done.
Mhm.
It's a rare deal. Like only so many directors get it, and it's after 25 years you get to completely own your film.
Right.
But the thing about that is, you just hope that your film has this long shelf life. I mean, it has a good shelf life where in 25 years people still want to watch it. People still are checking for it. It becomes a classic. So in that 25 years you have, but I think the best that the 25 years wasn't the best part of the deal. The best part of the deal was he was able to negotiate that he got his percentage before the studio even got paid. That's where it really counts at, because yeah, the studio after 25 years, they done made all they've made their money. So they don't care about handing to you at that point. But to be able to make, your profits before it's even said and done. And and I remember, I don't know if I don't know if you saw it or not, but on the Den of Kings with Kirk Franklin, Tyler was talking about how he helped with that deal and how so many people they caused this whole uproar, like, oh, why would he say that? And it's like this thing in our culture, like we want to, keep our mouths closed on certain things. Was like, no, if we some stuff has nothing to do with race. Some stuff has just to do with that we won't open our mouths and say, yeah, I have the answer for that. I can help you with that. But because we're all trying to keep our own little bubble and all that stuff, there's a lot of people being limited. But Lord, this
Sometimes
conversation
we
go.
can be our own worst enemy. One
Yeah,
thing I know a lot of people are critical of Mr. Perry, but he's opened the doors for a lot of people. When you hear stories from individuals like Taraji P. Henson that have said they have never been paid like they've been paid because of him. Because we all know historically, Black women have not been getting paid their
yeah.
due. They're just dues. And so I feel like if he's in the position to do it and he's done it and is doing it, what's the problem? And people can say, oh, I'm tired of seeing him in a wig. And they're so fixated on the small portion and not
Yeah.
seeing the bigger scale of what he's doing. And even you and I both know how he's pretty much single-handedly changed the economy of Atlanta and a good portion of Georgia as far as
Absolutely. I
jobs
mean,
in the
and
film
not
industry,
even just our state. I mean, Black entertainment. There was a point in time
period.
where you remember after UPN and all that stuff, you didn't see no Black television at all. They took
And you know
all
the
those
WB
shows off.
used us. The WB and UPN was built on us.
Yeah,
And Fox, people don't remember Fox used to be Black. Martin,
yeah.
all that was on Fox. But that's another,
Mhm.
yeah, don't get me started.
So yeah, there's so many different spaces, and especially to be able, there was a lot of barriers that were broken that man broke.
Yeah.
That not a stuff not a lot of people talk about, because we see the Ryan Coogler's, but the position that Ryan Coogler is in, the position that Issa Rae is in, all these different creators. There was, man, before Tyler did something, they was not ever going to allow any of these people to get opportunity. You talking about, let alone you barely get. I mean, you barely get to act in certain stuff, let alone direct and produce, put your name on it. Yeah, that wasn't happening. So I think, there was so many barriers broken down. We have to look at all these different things and say, okay, you don't have to like this, but you can't deny this. I mean, one of the biggest things that he always says, everybody who got something to say, just come take a look at the studio. You look at that studio, it's like, yeah, this
It
is much
shuts
bigger than
everything
Medea.
down.
Yeah, it's much bigger than Medea. And I think another thing that I've been noticing with my business, that I mean, a lot of people don't know this, and it's public information now, but Tyler Perry Studios, they have all kind of directors. People say, "Oh, you need a writer's room." There's writers' rooms there. There are other directors there. There are people who got their own films, own TV shows, and he only thing he does, he pays for it, and it's under the studio brand. But people don't, we don't highlight those things because our culture. We go back to we can be our own words, and we highlight the negative things all the time. So it's like there's we got some work to do in the house first before we can go out and do anything. Before we can talk about owning stuff, we have to first we gotta get these house rules together.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that even other production companies have reached out to him. A lot of people don't know there have been portions of The Walking Dead filmed at Tyler Perry
Yeah, I
Studios.
mean, like,
So
I think like the last 4 seasons was filmed there. Yeah,
yeah, and then part of Black Panther was filmed at Tyler Perry. So I mean, it's just
Black
those
Panther,
little things.
Captain
Captain
America.
America.
Yeah, a lot. It's a lot of stuff. It's not just his stuff. Yeah,
Yes, and I know we're kind of talking about him right now, but he's just done so much. And
yeah,
I remember during the pandemic, people were like, "Oh, why is it that no one has gotten COVID?" And he created this blueprint on how to quarantine and make film. And then he was able to create this SOP, or standard operation procedure, and
yeah.
sell it to other production companies. And that's another coin that he made that people don't understand is pandemic 101, how to
Yeah.
do that in a studio and still produce. And he created the template for
Yeah, I
that.
mean, it was dope. Yeah, he flew everybody in privately. Everybody came through private, and they all stayed there for a certain amount of time. And even with that, like there was certain stuff that I had to because I was bored in the pandemic. I was like, no. So I did, like 1 or 2 events during the pandemic. And we did these virtual events, and we had a certain way to do. So it's yeah, the man has definitely he done put a lot of people on, and I'm one of those folks to see it. So yeah.
Kudos. This has just been a great conversation. I definitely want to continue this conversation with you as far as film, media, AI, and Black creativity. And I definitely want to have you back sooner than later. Before we do that and wrap things up here, do you have any like nuggets, gems, takeaways for the listeners and viewers? And then also what's coming up for you, and then where people can contact you on social media?
Absolutely. Right now, I'm living in a space of enjoy the process. I know it sounds so hard, but the minute you start to dissect and then really look at what's going around you, you start to notice a lot of these things are really teaching you certain things that are going to matter then. There was certain losses that I took, a couple of years ago where, I lost $5,000, lost, $2,000, and I would be so mad at the time. But I said, it's better that you learn it now. When you losing thousands, you could be losing millions. So really taking everything in that's going around you and enjoy the process. There's so much learning there. And then as far as upcoming things, this month on Monday, I go into production for this film I'm directing. A friend of mine, it's called Cousins. I'm doing part 2, so I'm going to be directing that, and I don't know when that's going to come out, but I'll update everybody on that. And then my first original feature film, Forerunners, which is the one I posted about, that goes into production in October, and y'all, I'm very excited about that as well. Stay, looking at my Instagram, Facebook at Jhalen Daniels, and that's where I'll be letting everybody know if Netflix got it, if Hulu did, whoever got it. That's you can know from there.
Look, if you need an extra, let me know.
I got you. I got you.
So good. I just love creation and creativity, and I think what you're doing is so dope and awesome. And please keep me posted, that way I can share it to my listeners and viewers as well. Just because I'm big on supporting our people, and I think what you're doing is amazing. And so we really want to get the word out on that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. And where can people contact you on social media?
My name Jhalen Daniels, Jhalen Daniels. That's on Instagram, Facebook. That's the thing. Or the studio's website at powerthegenius.com.
Awesome. So, y'all, we have wrapped up another amazing episode of the Speaker Podcast, the podcast where innovators and creators connect. Be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe. You can follow me across all streaming platforms. I'm also on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Pandora, as well as YouTube. Be sure to hit that notification bell so you know when I'm going live. And I would love to hear from you. You can send an email to me at thespeakerpodcast@gmail.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Camille.Essex. Without further ado, you all, I hope you have a blessed weekend. I hope you got something from this conversation. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Be blessed. Talk to you later. Bye.
Into another episode of the Speak Her Podcast. Be sure to follow Camille on Instagram at Camille.Essex, Facebook, The Speak Her Podcast, or www.CamilleEssex.com.